everybody. It's Bobby, and in delivering today's golf lesson, which by the way is all about how you can use the same club, sand wedge, to hit the ball high or low to the same flag without changing the golf club, and how you can do it simply. And which, by the way, this is a lesson that I learned from another golf professional, 20 years ago or so when I worked for Golf Digest schools. But before I get into the lesson, let me tell you a little bit about that. You know, I had the great opportunity to work for Golf Digest schools for about 12 years. And it was a great opportunity because, you know, if you teach golf, you need to be around other instructors. And it's not that, you know, most of us are in unanimous agreement about what the fundamentals are. What varies from one person to the next, and in an area in which we all need to grow, is we need a myriad of presentations and ways to say it, because sometimes what you say to this person will leave this other person over here unresponsive. So you've got to be able to fire off a whole lot of different ways to say the same things. And we would have to give 5-minute putting presentations and 5-minute chipping presentations, and I would always come prepared thinking, man, I'm going to knock their socks off. But I would give my presentation and then listen as everybody else did it. And invariably, I would hear somebody and go, man, her presentation on putting was a little bit better than mine. I think I'm going to steal some of what she said, and that's fine. Or his chipping was a little bit better. You always learn something from somebody else, and your teaching became a best of series of all these other instructors you got to listen to, and it was the best opportunity, and I highly recommend it for anybody who wants to be a teacher. But there was this one time, and when we had this fellow named Ivan. It wasn't Ivan, it was Ivan. I called him Ivan. He corrected me. That's Ivan. He was from Uruguay, and it was his first year teaching there. And he was called on to teach. He was asked, and this was a topic they hadn't done before, we want each one of you to come up here and give 3 minutes on how to hit with the same club, a sand wedge, either a low chip shot or a higher chip shot to the same flag with the same club. And the first person to go will be Ivan. Now, Ivan spoke very broken English. He was from Uruguay. And he jumped up there with confidence that was absolutely palpable, almost intoxicating, this stage presence as he stood up there, and he said, today, and I'm not going to do his accent, I wouldn't do it any justice. Today, when you leave here, you will know how to hit the chip shot both low, and as he said that, of course, he punctuated it by chipping a ball low to the hole, as well as much higher. And then from there, he hit the shot, and it went much higher in the air, and he showed us both. And as he did that, all of us instructors looked at one another and goes, man, this is going to be a little bit more of a show. And basically, here's what he said. And this was such a wonderful lesson, because at the break, we all were given 2 hours in the middle of each day to just go out and mingle with one another and talk about what we learned in the opening presentations. And I noticed that everybody was practicing this chip shot, and these two chip shots, this method that Ivan had shown us. And it was like, you know what, that was the best thing all morning long. And let me share it with you. His take was this. If you are going to hit a low chip shot, then you use a power release. And if you're going to hit a high chip shot, use a soft release. Now, what's the difference? Well, a power release is just like you would try to use if you're hitting an 8-iron 150 yards, or a driver as far as you can hit it. And that involves a very flat wrist at impact, and an arm that might eventually roll over. All right, meaning, for instance, in a drive, this arm eventually rolls over, but it stays solid in this area. And if you want to hit a low bump and run chip shot, then you make sure that you're very solid in this area, somewhat convex. You never want to be concave if you want to hit the ball low. You want to be convex with this wrist as you swing through here. And that is the way you hit your low chip shot. I'd never heard it put quite like that, but I was very intrigued. He said it's the opposite when you want to hit it a little bit higher. What do? You play the ball a little bit farther forward in your stance, and this time you give it a soft release. What does that mean? That means that you allow this wrist to get concave, cup up in the air as you swing through it. Now, here's the trick, and this is what he emphasized, and I have to emphasize this to all of you. You cannot, and this is the danger for the high handicap player that hasn't done this much. This wrist cupping up is not to take the place of an arm that continues traveling. You can't just cup it up and think you're done. The arm, the wristwatch, must still continue going. And it is the success of the shot depends entirely on that. You've got to allow that wrist to keep moving. And so let me say that again. If you want to hit it low, like Ivan told us, then what do? You keep this left arm in a power position, that is a firm left wrist, so that the ball stays low. That's the basic bump and run shot. If you want to hit it a little higher, you use a soft release. So what does that mean? That means you play the ball a little bit farther forward in your stance, and as you swing through it, you allow this wrist to cup up. When you do that, that adds loft to the shot. Playing it forward is going to prevent it from getting stuck. When you start cupping this wrist up, you could get it snagged if you play the ball back. You got to play it a little bit farther forward, and from there, That is the way we play those 2 shots. I know that's going to help you. If I can do anything for you, you let me know. Thanks so much for tuning in.